everybody, and welcome to Classical Stuff You Should Know. We are a podcast. You probably should know that because you came here on your podcast app or something, or stumbled onto us on the internet. And we're a podcast all about classical stuff, old books, old art, old things. And we are three educators in Austin, Texas. We work at a school called Veritas Academy. My name is AJ Hannenberg, and I am joined by Thomas Fletcher Magbee.
Hi.
And Graham Grambles Donaldson.
So why is it called a podcast? Like,
I don't know.
Are we casting a pod?
Yes.
Like, that's the joke I always make, but what is a pod? Is it like the little unit of sound that we've created?
Podcast is a portmanteau, a combination of iPod and broadcast.
Oh.
Some sources have also suggested the backronym. How do you like that? Portable on demand or pod for similar reasons.
I can see it coming.
Remember them?
I do. Here comes the
Every
boom.
day is a new day. I'm thankful for every breath I take.
Keep going.
Was that Here Comes the Boom? Ready or not?
I don't know.
How do you like me now? Here comes the boom.
Payable on death.
Apparently, podcasts also used to be called audio blogs. So if that makes you feel better about yourself, you can
Oh,
call yourself an
no.
audio blogger.
I don't like that at all.
Put that on a business card. I feel
gross.
gross even saying it.
All right, well, this has been a fun aside.
Yep.
I'm
today-
Graham.
Yeah, he's Graham.
Great.
This has been a fun little aside. And today we are talking about purgatory, specifically lust and
Avarice.
and
Gluttony.
All the fun ones.
All the biggies.
The fun sins. There's some really...
Which ones have been the fun ones?
There's some
Pride's
bummer-
not a fun one.
Pride's not really a fun one. Wrath.
Yeah, not a fun
Being
one.
angry, not so fun.
Not
But
so
hey,
great.
like gluttony, avarice, and lust.
Thanksgiving
those
is coming.
Oh, so gluttony's coming up? Is that what you're saying?
Those are the three fun ones.
I hope it's
Aggressive.
gluttony.
You hope Thanksgiving is coming? Is that?
No, I said, you said it was gluttony. I was like, I hope it's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, if Thanksgiving is gluttony, then
Hope it's not avarice.
Christmas is
Yeah,
avarice.
seriously.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then what's our last one?
I don't
Lust?
want to. Thanks,
Valentine's Day.
Okay, this has been unfortunate. Okay,
There's
Saint-
one for each.
Poor Saint Valentine.
Poor St. Valentine, that's right. Okay, so we are going to be continuing with the Purgatory. So we will get through the last three circles in Purgatory. So that gets us to the top of the mountain. There are still, I think, 6 canti, whatever, for you Italian listeners after
Yeah.
that. So we will finish up with those at some point.
But then we forget all about it, right?
Oh, that actually does happen. That's they'll pass through the river. Is that Leth? What's
Leth.
Lethe? Whatever.
Lethe.
That happens later, but we're not going to get there today.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll get through avarice, gluttony, and lust today, hopefully. I always start out optimistic, and then we'll see how far we actually get through it. Okay, so where have we been so far? There was a bunch of stuff that happened at the beginning before they get to the mountain. Then there are some steps that are pretty cool that I did an episode on, because why not? Then there are 3 circles, like the first 3 circles of Purgatory. That's pride, envy, and wrath. You'll remember what the punishments were for pride, envy, and wrath? So the
Envy to you were all tied together.
You had to like sit on each other, right?
Yeah,
Lean on
so-
each
You
other?
had to lean on each other.
You're forgetting that. I mean, the best part is, debatable. They have their eyes sewn shut. That's envy. And then they're also dressed in like sackcloth, and they have to lean
But
on. They have to lean on each other.
When you're not strong,
Yeah.
Don't-
I'll
for
be
pride,
your friend.
don't you have to stare at the ground and read stories of people who are awesome?
Yeah.
Wasn't
You
that
got a
one?
big old rock on your back the whole time.
Was it pride? Wrath was the other one?
Pride, envy, and then wrath. What happens to the wrathful? You remember this was a lame one?
They had to run.
No, that's sloth.
You have to
Oh.
like send greeting cards to each other.
Yep, that's it. They have to like feel better about. No, the wrathful have like an annoying fog, and
that's
it's
right.
like kind of annoying.
That's right.
And it's just
The
like
fog.
it's
Ah,
really
stop
I feel like that would
my
make you
mildly,
more wrathful.
mildly annoying.
Curses.
Well, that's kind of the point, right?
You have to like beat it and eventually be like, I'm totally chill with this fog.
Yeah.
I am
and
the
then-
fog.
Wow, you become one with it.
It's like what was that movie? Was it The Happening that had the fog? No, it was a movie called The Fog. Remember that?
I think
The
you
Mist.
nope, you're making this up.
It was a horror movie where mist killed people.
Sure it was. AJ is the faculty sponsor of the Bad Movie Club, if you can't tell from his selection of cultural references.
This week we watched one on a horse that plays football.
Okay, so you watched a good movie is what you're
MVP.
trying to say. Did he
Name was
win?
Gus. He did win the Super Bowl.
Wow. What? It's incredible.
Was he a running back? What did he
Kicker.
quarterback?
Kicker, of course.
It was a donkey that kicked.
Oh,
kicked
a donkey
thing.
or a horse? What is
I think it was a
it? Oh,
donkey
okay.
or a mule. It was it was an equine of some sort, and he kicked field goals.
Speaking of
It was
equines,
terrible.
so we go from pride, envy, and wrath, and then sloth is the middleest of the 7 because it's number 4 out of 7. That's where they have to run around and they have encouraging messages. They yell to everyone, and we met a priest who was there.
So Thomas, that podcast inspired me.
Oh,
and
to get running?
I kid you not, when I came home from recording that podcast, I bought a pair of running shoes because I've been waiting to do it because my running shoes are falling apart. And today I went for a jog.
I'm proud of you. Did it go well? Are you glad you went on that run?
I got some wrath.
But less sloth, so maybe it all balances out in the end.
That's right. And I also have been reading Jocko's book. What is it? Discipline equals freedom.
Yeah.
Oh man, it makes me feel bad about myself.
Do you follow him on Instagram? Do you have an Instagram actually?
No, I don't have an Instagram. I do, but I don't have it on my phone, so I'm never on it anymore. He just basically posts pictures of like him waking up at 4:30 in the morning and working out.
It's a picture of his watch at 4:30 or 4:32 or whatever every day, and then the workout he does, and it's demoralizing.
What a hard flex on all your followers.
I know.
100% right. Yeah.
Like he's just hard flexing on everybody.
He's like a blast furnace of a human.
Good expression. Okay, so that was the first 4 circles. We'll get through the last 3 today, hopefully. Pride, envy, wrath, sloth is where we have been. We talked about this last time, that Purgatory is split up. There's like an organization to the whole thing. That the first 3 levels are loves that have to be eliminated. So the love of self and pride, the love of destruction of others, or the love of self-gain and envy, and then the love of destruction with wrath. So those 3 need to be eliminated. Sloth is this bridge between the 2 levels, the 2 groupings, where love needs to be stirred up. That's why they're running around to enliven them to life. And then the top 3 are loves that need to be put in the right place. So they are love of things that are good in and of themselves, but the love is excessive. Would be the way to put that.
And that's the avarice.
All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Avarice, gluttony, and lust. All 3 are love of things that are good, but they are loved too much. There's actually an interesting example of that in lust, which we'll, again, hopefully get to at the end of this. My other important takeaway from the last episode is that my wife studied abroad in Italy for 6 months. She's I think she has a minor in Italian. She says my Italian reading is abysmal. I believe that was the exact word that she used. So if you remember, I tried to read a thing in Italian. Apparently it was horrible. So apologies to anyone I insulted by doing that reading. I apologize to you. Okay, so we pick up after the circle of the slothful. Slothful, is that right? Mm-hmm. So we see all these people running around. They're encouraging each other. And AJ, in Dante's Inferno, whenever something like dramatic happens, what's Dante's response?
He generally passes out.
Yeah, so he takes a nap in Canto 19. That's his response.
Accurate.
Yes.
Yep.
So part of it is probably seeing all these people running around so much. The other part, I haven't talked about this much because it's a detail and there's a lot going on in this book, is that you can't progress in purgatory at night. There are different descriptions of like why throughout, but essentially like the desire to move on just stops, and so wherever you are, you just sit down and go to bed.
It's just wicked dark up there.
Yeah. So everyone has to take a nap.
Dark and foggy. You're not going to make me go no steps. I'll tell you that right now.
Can you actually can that be our Dante for the rest of this time? That's pretty good. So
that's Dante. It's just what is that, a Bostonian accent?
I thought Boston. Is that what you're going for right there?
Yeah.
Okay. You're not impressed?
Well, I'm just saying it's dark out now and we're still podcasting.
Yeah, tell me about it. So YouTube, tell us to go home. So he can't progress at night, which has been true this entire time. So he sits down and takes a nap. He has a dream, and in this dream, he is approached by the siren, or she describes herself as the siren, but a siren. It's a category.
Dante's like, "What up, girl? You're looking real attractive over there."
Actually, kind of. What is a siren? What is the siren?
They are half woman, half bird. They have bird bodies, the heads of women. They sing on an island, and they attract all the sailors. And then the sailors swim over, and then they eat you. I think they eat you. Either that or you just starve. I think they eat you.
This is a bummer. And then
you want to listen to their song.
Yes, they attract people. People want to listen to them. Is there anything? I'll just keep going.
I was singing earlier.
Are you the siren? We just can't stop listening to your sound. Please don't eat us. So this might strike you as strange that in Purgatory, Dante is having a vision of a siren.
Yeah, that does strike me strange.
That is a thing that is kind of strange. Mm-hmm. It's not really explained as to, well, they explain the meaning of the siren in a second, we'll get to, but not like why it's happening here. There's something here of, there are, I guess, 3 different dreams that Dante has throughout his time. The first one we covered a long time ago in one of my droning episodes over quarantine, which I guess we're technically still in a quarantine of some kind, was about Dante having a vision of an eagle. This happens in Canto 9. Dante goes to sleep. In the dream, he's in a field. He's just kind of walking around, and he sees this eagle in the distance. He's like, "Oh, it's like a cool looking eagle." He's like, look in. It's like, "Oh, that eagle's getting kind of close to me." And then he gets picked up by, the eagle strikes him and grabs him with the talons, picks him up. And it's this...
you're not Frodo. Puts him down.
Oh, is that how that... Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's true. After it wheeled a moment in the air, terrible as a thunderbolt, it fell and swept me upwards to the rings of fire. I and the eagle seemed to burn a flame, so searing were the blazes in my mind. My sleep had to be broken. So he, in this dream, is picked up by an eagle. So there are some connections here. You said this. The siren is part bird. So this is kind of two different birds that we see. I think you all might have said this. What do the sirens look like?
Bird ladies.
Yeah, but are they...
Heads of women, bodies of birds.
But they're usually viewed as like appealing creatures, right?
Well, and this is the weird thing. In the classics, they're not attractive. It's only later that they are imbued with physical characteristics of beauty. Back in the old days, like Homer, they're not beautiful creatures. It's only their song that's attractive.
But they're still attractive. Maybe
the song is almost irresistible. Sure. Men go mad and want to follow it.
Yeah. So in this one, Dante must have now attributed the physical characteristics of attractiveness to the siren as well. So he's looking at the siren. Siren's looking cute. Suddenly he hears the voice of a blessed lady who's probably Saint Lucy, who, if you want to hear more about her, go listen to my old episodes. This is like the 5th episode I've done on Purgatory. Isn't that crazy? We'll come to
I feel like we've been here forever.
But seriously though, yeah, tell me about it. There's a guy who's been in Purgatory for 500 years who we're about to meet, and y'all probably feel just like him. So it's okay. We'll get past it eventually.
Just kidding. I love Dante.
So Dante hears the voice of a woman who is really upset that the siren is here, which all of us should be.
Yeah, how'd the siren get there?
It's in his dream. So she's not actually there, but all this dream and what's actually happening is kind of mixed up in a second. Santa Lucia calls on Virgil to take care of the siren. And then this is what Virgil does. It's kind of a weird description. I don't think it's inappropriate, but I don't know. You might want to skip 30 seconds. Listen to it and find out if you wish you had skipped 30 seconds. He seized and ripped the curtains off that winch and showed me her whole paunch and all below, which woke me with the putrefying stench. I moved my eyes and the good teacher said, "At least 3 times I've called, arise and walk. Let's find the passageway and move ahead." So, attractive song. Dante is like walking toward her. Virgil shows up, cuts off her clothes and shows that she's like actually ugly. Whole paunch, and then she smells bad. She has a putrefying stench. That is the thing that happens. Any guesses as to why that happens?
I mean, birds are kind of gross.
Are we talking, if this is is this in the circle of sloth?
No, we have passed that. We are getting close to avarice. We're between sloth and avarice right now. Sometimes it's called sloth. Have we talked about that?
Well, because you can be drawn to something and then have it not be the thing you wanted, or have it be actually a disgusting thing.
Thank you. Virgil will later say, "You saw," he said, "that sorceress of old, she who's repented in these upper rings. You saw how men must bolt out of her fold." So she is Dr. Esselin. If this is your first time tuning in, the 2 really helpful resources are the translation by Dr. Anthony Esselin.
I thought you were talking to Dr. Esselin. I'd be like,
hey,
Dr. Esselin, if this is your first time tuning in.
I love your book. I love Dante's book. So the Dr. Esselin's translation of Dante is great, as is A Beginner's Guide to Dante's Divine Comedy by Dr. Jason Baxter. So both are great resources. Anyway, Dr. Esselin will point to this as the siren as a sign of material good, which appears pleasing to the eye, but actually has like an evil, disgusting side underneath. So that's why the siren shows up here. We keep on moving. I already compared to you. There's a vision of an eagle earlier. So there are 2 different bird images here. One used by God to show how Dante's being drawn up in this fiery passion. One used here to show the limits of material good, material desires. We then enter into the circle of the circle of avarice. Avaricious, can I say that? It doesn't sound like a real thing. I'll just read this here. Well, actually, let's start with our definitions. When I say avarice, what comes to mind?
Greed.
Right.
But maybe there must be some sort of thing that's more distinctive than just greed. You know, wanting stuff.
What is, wanting stuff.
Yep.
Coveting?
Yeah.
Covetousness.
Wanting stuff.
This is great. So, again, in Aquinas' definition, this is what is meant by covetousness, which is defined as immoderate love of possessing. Immoderate love of possessing. Typically will be related to money, but doesn't necessarily have to be.
Right here you see my Lamborghini, but beside me you'll see this, what I prize even more,
My
bookshelves.
Whatever happened to that guy?
it's like a whole genre though. It's not just that one guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That is embarrassing. Did he rent the Lamborghini? I thought that was like one of the
Did he really
controversial-
rent it?
I thought that was one of the controversial parts of that video. He doesn't say
so
that in the video. But
But how am I supposed to do my like multi-level marketing
Scam?
Amazon scam?
drop shipping is not a scam. I'll have you know.
sorry.
My 4-part video series for $999 will show you everything. Okay. So if the sin is avarice, covetousness, greed, so immoderate love of possessing, what would be a punishment that would correct for that? What would correct for an immoderate desire for stuff?
For avarice?
Yeah.
Like you got to give stuff away.
Oh, I like that.
So you got this like big bag of stuff and you got to give it to everybody.
Generosity. So you
gotta
got to
be
be Santa.
Santa.
They'll turn
You
into
gotta
Santa
be
Claus.
Santa
Yeah, I would
Claus.
love,
Yeah,
I
you
would
gotta
love
be
that.
Either that or like, I don't know, you have to carry like a giant bag of heavy crap everywhere.
Just to realize how
Yeah.
all that stuff
Or
weighs
you gotta
down.
you gotta purge your like retired parents' house. You have to like go through and just like
Oh, yeah.
and get rid of like
like a hoarder.
it's like, oh, we got this in Cancun in '96. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, but you can still love possessing. I wonder if it's just to share or live on little. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that. Y'all are pretty spot on with it. All these are part of what's weird is that they're not bodies at this point; they're just souls. They're shades, is what they call them over and over again. So they don't bring anything with them, but there are different. It appears like physical things happening to them in each circle. So here, this is Canto 19, line 70. Again, for none of you following along at home. And when I reached clear space in that 5th round, I saw great crowds lamenting everywhere, all lying with their faces to the ground. My soul cleaves to the dust, I heard them praying, uttered with sighs so deep that it was hard to hear and understand what they were saying. And then he goes on from there. So they're face down on the ground, looking at the dirt, and that's what they do. They also cry out and pray during this time, so there's also repentance, but they're focused on the dust. Again, the things that they desired in life ultimately are dust. They put too much value into whatever, again, money is the clear example, the accumulation of wealth or property or whatever. And instead of, they are learning that what they had cared about is only dust. And so that's what they have to reflect on for their time in the circle. Dante will meet a Pope Adrian V. Is he one of y'all's favorite? No,
Don't know.
okay, good.
Oh, I love Adrian.
Yeah.
4th, not so good. 5th,
really just
best in the
crushing it.
series.
Yeah. We'll talk with Dante about what's happening in the series. I like that. We'll talk about what is happening in the circle. What avarice does is manifested here by the purgation of the souls turned round. No pain upon the hill is more severe. For as our eyes were never raised on high, but fixed themselves upon the things of earth, here justice humbles them to touch the ground.
Oh, so you were looking at all the things of Earth, and now you have to
Literally
just
look
look
at the
like way closer.
Yes. and reflect on this is what you desired in life.
Oh, you like the Earth so much. I want you to marry it.
I mean,
All I'm thinking about is how the 4th in the series would be called a new pope.
oh, well done. Proud of you. I think we can just end the podcast right there. We've had a good 160 episode run, but that's it. We did it. We found the perfect joke.
Sorry, Thomas.
No, you're doing great. This is how all of my episodes go.
Should I stop it? Should I stop
No, yeah, I think you should just.
No, we gotta keep going.
We should definitely keep going.
Episode 45?
No, we should just never have any more episodes. As avarice quenched the love we should have borne for all good things and made us lose our labor, so justice holds us here within its clinch. So that is Pope Adrian talking about the circle of the avaricious. I'm not going to say much more about it. I actually didn't think we'd spend much time here, but here we are 20 minutes in. Hope you're having fun. Okay, we'll move on to Canto 20.
How did they get out of it?
Repenting.
So they just need to realize that.
We'll actually have a pretty clear description in just a second.
Okay.
You had asked last time about a soul moving between levels.
Yeah.
And we actually see that this
Okay.
time in, I think it's the next canto. I won't say, actually, no, I lied to you. We're going to talk about this one. Okay, so before the episode, Graham, I mentioned that we meet a fellow named Hugh Capet.
Capet.
Hugh Capet.
Hugh Capet.
Hugh Capet. What do you know about this fellow?
The first French king?
Okay.
Is that? I think he's the first
all
French
right.
king. And the head of one of the main French houses. I can never remember which one it is. Is it the House of Capet? Might be. House of Valois? I can't remember.
I'll read this, and again, we'll take him in his own words. So, in the circle of the avaricious, Dante meets Hugh Capet. Here is his. I feel like it's like a prank name every time I see it, right? Like huge Capet. I don't know what a Capet is though. That's where anyway. Okay, so
He wears a big hat.
big head, right? And that's what I kept wondering if that was
Huge
what.
Capet.
Okay, his description of himself. who is he? Hugh Capet was my name, and every last Philip and Louis who has governed France from my day until now has sprung from me. So the father of all, or ancestor of all French kings. But he has more to say than just that. I was the chief root of that evil tree that spread such gloom over all Christendom. The good fruits are rare for plucking. But if Lil or Ghent were available, or he keeps going on talking about other names. Dante very clearly does not have nice things to say about French noble people. This entire canto is like
Charles IV tried to kill him,
and ultimately led to his exile. Right from where's he from?
Florence.
From Florence. So that's part of him. Though I hadn't intended to say this. That as backstory makes it almost more powerful that he's put him in purgatory and not hell, right? Yeah. That he could see him as this like progenitor of all evil in the world, all this political strife, but instead sees him for the faith that he has. And, he didn't have any personal beef with like the great grandfather or whatever of his political enemy. But yeah, he is the father of the person who gets him kicked out of Florence.
House of Capet. Yeah.
Capet, is it? Yeah.
That was Valois.
I don't know. You take it up with Dante. Okay. So, Mr. Capet, Monsieur Capet has an interesting part in here that I want to offer to you all. So we've talked in different circles about how they are, so like the prideful, AJ, you said this. They have this giant rock on their back. They're staring at the ground in front of them. They're looking at these stories of humility. And that is it's both their punishment, but also their education. So we learn more about what's happening in each circle from Hugh, the man himself. I will read this and we'll go from there. Those words I spoke referring to that sole spouse of the Holy Spirit, which made you turn my way to gain a gloss upon the text. Okay, so they talk to him because he's like wailing his repentance. He's like loud enough that Dante and Virgil are like, what's up with this guy? So, the words that I was talking about when you heard me yelling, that is the antiphon for all our prayers, as long as the day lasts. At fall of night, we sound the opposite in its place, for then we tell the story of Pygmalion, turned traitor to nation, kinslayer and thief, by his all-gluttonous will to heap up gold, and of the greedy Midas come to grief after he made that wish to gorge his fill, misery ever fit to make men laugh. Then we recall Achan, presumptuous fool who robbed the spoils, told in so loud a voice it seems the wrath of Joshua bites him still. Sapphira and her husband we accuse, then praise the hooves that kicked at Heliodorus, and round the hill in infamy there goes. Polymnestor, who cut down Polydorus, then we cry in conclusion, now you know, so tell us, Crassus, what's the taste of gold? Do I keep going from here? Yes. Sometimes one speaks up loud, the other low, according as desire may spur us on, to sing our chants with greater strides or no. So when you heard me, I was not alone speaking of virtue in the day, but near us no voice was raised so high by anyone. What is he talking about here? They tell positive examples during the day, and then at night, they tell the opposite. They tell warning stories against, in this case, avarice. But when I read this, there seems more going on than just reading those stories. I'll maybe say again from here. Sapphira and her husband we accuse, then praise the hooves that kicked at Heliodorus, and round the hill in infamy there goes. Polymnestor, who cut down Polydorus, then we cry in conclusion, now you know, so tell us, Crassus, what's the taste of gold? And it goes on from there. They're doing something interesting here where they're putting themselves in the story, right? It's more than just they've heard the story of Sapphira and her husband holding on to money, not giving it up, and then, they die for it. It's they are accusing Sapphira and her husband. They've put themselves into the story. Same with...
so are they having to feel the effects of what the other people's avarice sort of engendered? Like they're having to be the poor, or they're having to be the taken from?
I don't think they're necessarily the ones hurt by these decisions. So again, they're saying that they are accusing Sapphira and her husband. They are looking on as Crassus is the one who is he beheaded and then has gold poured down, or he has gold poured down his throat?
He died and then they poured. I just looked it up. They poured a bunch of gold down his gullet. That's why it says, "What is the taste of gold?"
You know how sometimes such a good line. Like you get those you see at those fancy restaurants, those like hamburgers covered with like little gold foil. Yeah, make a Crassus burger. Crassus burger. That's what I call it.
That's awesome.
Is it? Okay, so but
classical stuff food truck.
That sounds depressing.
Oh, Crassus burgers. What else we got in there?
Nothing. The taste of dust. The avarice dust. So maybe I find this more interesting maybe than you all, that it's not just a retelling of stories. They are feeling these stories in a way that makes it their own story. It's not merely, hey, it's bad that Sphere and her husband did this. It's, we are enraged that you are keeping this money for yourself. It's not just that Crassus had too much a love of gold. It's that they are condemning him for that love of gold.
So they're putting themselves in the other, they're having to
in
be
that story.
Empathetic or whatever.
Yes.
They're putting themselves into the feeling what the others felt.
Yes. Which I find it's not enough to just know these stories. They are actually emotionally engaged in these stories. It's not just, there's this old story that happened.
They're living it out.
Yes, they are living it out every night is the way they describe it. They go through all of these stories every night. And I think that then becomes, I'll connect that in just a second. That will connect then with what prepares a person to move from one circle to the other. It's not just, at some point long ago, we talked about like the fables. Who's the guy with the animal fables? Aesop's fables. And we had this back and forth of, is it enough, like, the lessons from Aesop's fables, but you don't live the lessons from Aesop's fables. You know not to be swayed by flattery, but still we're swayed by flattery. In Purgatory, it's not enough to know avarice is bad, because everyone would say avarice is bad. It's, you have to actually have your mind changed and hate greed, hate avarice. So that's, I think, what Hugh is pointing to with this section right here. I found this super interesting, but I will move on from there.
I was thinking about this. So at church this Sunday, they were preaching from Galatians, where they talked about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. And then the line was, and without these, what is it?
I thought against these things there are no...
Against these things there is no law.
Right.
And that sort of hit me as like, this may be a longer thought we don't need to get into, but it was just the idea that there's law, and then there's want, and then there's wanting to do the right thing. So you put rules in place because you want them to love the good eventually. But once you love the thing, you don't really need the rules anymore.
Can you hold on to that thought
Sure.
for like 35 minutes?
Okay.
Because you have preempted literally everything that I'm going to say because you're a smart guy. That's a great... It's a great
Go
thought.
back to making bad puns and
No, you should do what you just did and just keep doing that.
Talking
No.
about food trailers.
Do it in your own episodes. So that's actually everything you just said is where we will end up. So, listener, hold on to that thought or forget about it so that I can say it and sound profound. Okay, so this all happens, and so he talks about having to feel these stories, and then like literally immediately after that, the conversation ends and Dante just keeps walking. There's no like goodbye or anything. It's just always very funny. So Dante and Virgil keep walking. And as they are walking, we had departed from that shade by now and set ourselves to overcome the road as far as the thronged passage would allow, when I felt the hill tremble like a thing ready to topple over. So Mount Purgatory is trembling like a thing ready to topple over. And I was taken by chills that sees a man led off to die.
Yeah.
And then Virgil like grabs him and like gives him a hug to reassure him. It's very funny.
Man, Virgil,
He's a good guy.
He's great.
He is a good guy. I'm sure they've been doing this the entire time, and I'm just finally picking up on it. There's this father-son language that's used a lot between Virgil and Dante that really starts to be emphasized over and over. Dante calls him father first, and there's a scene later where Virgil will call him son to motivate an action from him. And it's just a very, it's sweet, this connection they've developed over the course of, Inferno and now most of Purgatory. Okay, so there's an earthquake, and we don't know why, but it happens. That is the end of Canto 21.
We found out later, though, right?
In Canto 21. In Canto 21. So, sorry, we just wrapped up Canto 20. In Canto 21, they're walking along, and a shade walks up behind them and just kind of starts a conversation with them. And
as ghosts and shades are wont to
as
do.
they're wont to do. And just because the shade knows more about Purgatory than Dante does, Dante asks him, if you know, why the mountain recently shivered so hard, and why they seem to cry down to its sandy base beside the sea. Like it was a terrifying shake that just happened.
Your luck, I'm a geologist.
I'll have you know.
Stuck in Purgatory.
He's actually a poet, which maybe makes him, less useful. But still a wonderful person. Sorry, all of our poets out there. So
you can still dig for nuggets as a poet, right?
Can you? I guess you can do whatever you want to, right? As anyone can do that. Is he like one of those what are they called when you go to the beach and
49er?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Great.
Prospector.
Thank you. Is that still what you would call them if you have the metal detector?
Prospecting for gold.
Thank you. Good. I guess it is still what you're looking for.
Man, you find like keys and bottle caps, and not gold.
Until you find gold bars. Gold in them are hills. Okay, so Dante asks why there was an earthquake, which seems like a really reasonable question. This shade, who I don't think we've learned the name of yet, but we will later, starts with this thing about how purgatory never changes. There's no weather in purgatory. There's no movement of the clouds. There's a scene earlier where Dante plucks, I want to say it's like a piece of grass or maybe a leaf, but as soon as he does, another one immediately grows back. Yeah, exactly. There's like the tree was supposed to look a certain way. Dante messed it up. It gets fixed immediately.
And that's why the sheep are the happiest sheep you've ever seen. They can eat so much grass, and it's all just right back there.
Oh, we get more. So that is mentioned. Purgatory never changes, except when it trembles.
Grass futures plummeted, though.
That's really unfortunate. I think they have a market in Purgatory. I don't. Are they
the
making
bull
money
market
there?
is great.
It's a bull market. I like that. Okay, so, but it does tremble. That is literally the line, 58. But it does tremble when a spirit feels so cleansed that he may rise or climb the hill. And the quake is accompanied by a shout. I didn't mention this. I guess I should actually go back. So it's not just the terrifying earthquake. There's all about Dante, the cry of glory to God in the highest. And it's as if it's being shouted from every direction, everywhere, and it terrifies him. So, when a spirit feels so cleansed that he may rise or climb the hill, and the quake is accompanied by a shout. Our purging's proof rests solely in the will, which, free to change its place and company, takes the soul by surprise and brings delight to will the change. Before this, certainly we will, but our desires will not allow, wishing that justice deal us punishment, as once we wished to sin. So, the shades are choosing when they move on to the next level. Choosing is the wrong word. It's all complicated. They know the right time to move on to the next level. And it's when their will and their desire are unified, unified together in hatred of whatever the sin is at the level that they're at. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just recount.
It's not like you passed the final exam.
But it's even, you did pass an exam, but you didn't just know, here are the 12 stories in the circle of the prideful. You hate pride. You have rejected pride and are now ready to move on to the next circle.
How much time are these fellas spending in all these circles? Does it talk about that? Because I feel like you might get it pretty quick with a rock on my shoulders and a whole bunch of stories about humility. Give me a couple of days. I'll kick that pride habit.
Yeah, I'll keep reading. Before this
Hugh Capet's been there 500 years.
Actually, it's this guy who's been here 500 years. I only now, this is the shade talking, I only now felt my will free to find a better place. I who have lain 500 years and more here in this sorrow. That was why you felt the tremor of the earth and heard the souls all round the mountain giving praise to God, and may he call them soon. This shade is the reason for the earthquake. He had just passed from the circle of avarice to, he's actually just going to walk through the circle of gluttony, which is kind of cool.
So he's got that one licked, huh?
Yes, he does. So he doesn't have to spend any time there. He'll actually walk with Dante for the rest of the purgatory.
See you later, you jabronis.
He's fed up with gluttony.
So that is why there was an earthquake a second ago. That is what happens when people move between the different circles. The mountain responds.
Gotcha.
To a soul being.
And it shakes and sings and.
Yes. The people shout. The mountain shakes. The person walks on to the next circle as almost like an affirmation that they're ready for it. This person we find out later is Statius, Statius. Statius. Do y'all know anything about the poet Statius?
Nope.
Oh, you're gonna blow my mind if you do.
Nope.
Cool.
Coming up empty.
Statius, the people call me to this day. I sang of Thebes and of the great Achilles, but with the second burden fell midway. He started a book about Achilles and then died. The brilliant seed that set my love afire flashed from the divine flame that kindled me and lit the lamps of many a thousand more. Of the Aeneid, I mean. For all I am of poet, it was my mama and my nurse. Without it, all my work weighs not a dram. He's a poet. He wrote... again, this thing about Achilles that he didn't actually finish, and the one about Thebes is the I have it pulled up, but it's he wrote an epic poem about Thebes is the point right there. It's like 12 volumes. Apparently, it had something of a resurgence when Dante was writing, but isn't actually that good. Again, according to Dr.
So he wrote
Esselin.
fan fiction,
as do all classical authors, right? What is Paradise Lost if not fan fiction?
Iliad fan fiction.
Yes. I'll say again, he is praising the Aeneid as like the thing that sparked in him the desire to write. Is that why is that an interesting reference?
Because Virgil wrote it.
Yeah, and where is Virgil right now?
He's standing right there.
Yeah, so this guy starts praising the Aeneid, written by Virgil. Virgil is Dante's guide through Inferno and Purgatory, and so
it's Virgil like, stop it.
It's actually a really funny scene. So this guy's like, he just says this. He's not like prompted. He doesn't recognize Virgil because they're shades. You can't really.
Yeah.
Is this a thing in the Inferno? You can't really like recognize. You kind of. I don't know. They look to each other like shades. They don't recognize each other. I guess he wouldn't know what Virgil looked like anyway. And so Dante has this moment of like, and kind of like looks to Virgil and gives him kind of an eye. And Virgil says, "Please be still," turning a silent glance my way. But man cannot do everything by power of will. And so Dante ends up, he kind of like gives a wink to Statius. And Statius is like,
seriously?
Now be so good to tell me why. May all your labor come to a good end. You showed me that little twinkle in the eye. And so Dante then reveals that Virgil is the guy standing right here with Statius. And he immediately like drops on his knees, says that he would spend more years in purgatory if he could only have more time.
Ooh, that's not good.
Oh, you think so?
You're going to get knocked down a peg, my friend. You're going down to...
hopefully not limbo, right?
No, what's it when you like place your love for someone else above the love of God? Maybe this is like...
Well, lust, but I don't think this really applies.
It's not the same. Yeah. It's not pride, envy, maybe pride. I don't know.
Yeah, idolatry.
But it's a respect of the...
I guess.
It's a respect of Virgil.
Yeah.
Again,
you don't want to say I'd spend more years in purgatory just to chill with you. That's
I mean, I
guess
know.
it means you haven't learned your lesson yet.
It would make a great Death Cab song.
It would. I'll follow you into the dark. Isn't that literally the whole point of that
drives
song?
me bonkers.
You love that song. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, so
Heaven and hell can't decide that they're both satisfied.
is that the lyric in the song?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know it as well as you do. Why don't you have any emotions?
There's always
Why don't you
vacancy in
know?
heaven.
Okay. Is that what it does? It say there's a no vacancy sign?
Yeah. Illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs.
Okay. We should
When
spend...
There's no one inside besides you. When your soul embarks, I'll follow you into the dark.
Yeah.
Why do you all know this? Okay, so...
Because we have hearts, Magbee.
You do. But you also reject it, so you have no heart. So Virgil...
2 ears and a heart. That's how we know it.
I thought you were going to say 2 hearts and an ear. I got nervous for a second. Virgil... So now Statius knows that Virgil is the other shade. He starts fanboying about Virgil, and it's just very sweet. So they get to the next scene. A thing I didn't mention about this guy Statius is that he was a 1st century Roman poet. There's no record that he was a Christian. There's no historical record of that. And so Dante has to do some work to say why he's here in purgatory, why he's like pretty high up in purgatory. And so the question is posed to him of why he's here. There are 2 parts to this. First, it's why is Statius like a moral, virtuous person? And he says that Virgil is the reason for that. That Virgil has a line, why do you wholly hunger after gold, not guide the appetites of mortal men? And there's this whole, anyway, there's like, apparently there is a level of love of wealth that is acceptable, that is not excessive, I guess is the way to say. There are good physical things to desire after. Virgil points to that. And that was something that compelled Statius to repent of his avarice. He even references that if not for this line, I'd be a jouster where the rocks are rolled. So he's actually referencing the Inferno. So apparently knows the punishment. Is that for the avarice, the greedy?
It's for the hoarders and spendthrifts.
Yeah.
A jouster where so they roll rocks into each other and then holler, why spend, why hoard?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so he recognizes that he would have been sent there if not for his repentance of greed. And then the question is posed by Virgil, what candle then, what sun scattered the darkness that you might turn sail following the fishermen, following God? Statius' reply, this is to Virgil, you were the one, said he, who first invited me to sip of the springs in the grottos on Parnassus, and then you lighted me the way to God. You did as one upon the road at night who holds a torch that those behind may see, though he himself's unaided by the light. It's a really tragic image. Saying, he's quoting Virgil here. This is Statius' line that brought him to faith. From heaven descends a newborn son. The morning of humanity returns, and a new age of justice has begun.
The Eclogues.
Yes, a poet you made me, and a Christian too. And he goes on from there.
Yeah, that's a really weird piece in Virgil history, is that he has this poem called the Eclogues, where he's essentially writing about Augustus.
Yes.
But when you read it, you're like, this is about Jesus.
Yep.
But Virgil predates Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and it's very bizarre. So, I mean, classical Christian scholars have said, well, Virgil just like knew it, or he preempted it, or like the fact that the Messiah's coming was so strong that like it even radiated into the poetic mind of Virgil in the past. Whatever. But the Eclogues is a really, when you read it, it's spooky just in how, Christian it sounds.
Yes. I don't know much about the Eclogues other than what's quoted here. Apparently, this is from the fourth one. So there apparently are multiple. I don't know if there are 4
I think there's 7. I don't know.
Okay. This line can be translated different ways. Here's another translation, again from Dr. Esselin. The great line of the centuries is born again. Now the Virgin of justice returns, and the golden reign of Saturn, now a newborn child, is sent down from the heavens on high.
Yeah,
That's another
from
way
a
of translating
virgin.
it. Yeah.
I know, it's bonker, it's craziness.
Yeah. But I don't know how you're saying there's kind of a longer tradition of interpreting this. Dante's read is to say Virgil didn't benefit from this knowledge. Virgil was not saved by this knowledge of a future son that would come to bring justice or whatever. Again, the image is it a fisherman? I just lost it. One on the road at night who holds a torch that those behind may see. He's holding a torch behind him, though he himself's unaided by the light. So he leaves this gift that Statius inherits, I guess you'd say, but Virgil doesn't benefit from. He's stuck in limbo. Isn't that, yeah.
I think the argument for it is that there's a common grace that God also gives, where the poets and some of the classical authors have a knowledge of what God will do in Christ without really being able to put a fine point on it.
Yep.
So the Jews in their testament, the Jews in their scriptures have hints of that,
Yep.
and so too do the pagans.
Yep.
And then when Christ comes, Athens and Jerusalem kind of
together, right?
commingle.
Yes.
Or you can say that Christianity just stole all that stuff.
Yeah, but sure. Or, fulfilled it, whatever. So I guess this lines up with what you're saying. Statius is born in the 1st century. He's born after Christ. It is possible that he would have heard of Christ, could have repented, could have become a Christian. But for sure, he wasn't like publicly a Christian, right? Like this is not a thing that's recorded about him. So he's been here for 500 years. Do you want to guess where he's been for those 500 years?
Gluttony? Is he a hungry dude?
Oh, again, thanks to Virgil, he made it through that. Because he didn't look like a Christian during his life, he had to go to the Circle of the Slothful. He's been there for 400 years.
Oh,
having to
running laps?
Yes, because he was able to live his life looking, fitting into culture just fine, right? There was no like passion in him that burst forth or whatever. So he'd been there for 400 years. All the stuff before that took 100 years apparently, and then that's why he's in the circle he is right now. So there you go. Okay, so I'm sure there's more to be said here, but just
that this guy has not a saving faith, but he has a knowledge of God from Virgil, who himself did not have knowledge of Christ from Virgil, who himself did not have a knowledge of Christ. But you're saying that he could have also have heard the story of Christ because he lived in the 1st century.
He could have connected what
Virgil said.
Yes. So he would have been, again, being after Christ, he could have heard Virgil prophesying this and then heard the connection to the actual
That's
Christ.
right. It's not like it's Cato up there.
No, I mean, that answers my question. I was going to say, why not put Socrates and Plato there? Because they talk about the divinity of like the gods and how they should work, and that it can't be these crazy gluttonous things that are talked about. Sure. And so I was wondering, why not those guys? Well, it's time, I think. They have to be post-Jesus.
Yes, that is a part of it, which is a bummer.
Just a bummer for Virgil.
Yes.
Isn't there a pagan emperor in Purgatory who gave a dude a jacket?
I think he's in Paradiso.
Oh, okay. Wow, man.
I think that's right. But again, we're definitely not there.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay, so he was stuck in the circle of the slothful for a long time because he, again, looked like a pagan and was not like bold in his faith or anything like that during his lifetime. Okay. I will breeze through these next few sections and then we'll wrap up with just a beautiful part from Virgil. We get to the circle for gluttony. Oh, I do this every time and then immediately forget. So for the circle of the avaricious, for the covetous. So if covetousness is not a phrase you're used to, here are the children of covetousness, things that you might look for in your own life that are tied with the capital sin of greed. Treachery, fraud, falsehood, perjury, restlessness, violence, and insensibility to mercy. Treachery, fraud, falsehood, perjury, restlessness, violence, and insensibility to mercy.
Nope. I'm good.
As long as you're good with all those, then you're good to go.
Awesome.
I don't do a lot of fraud.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's, this is being recorded, right? I feel like. Okay.
Yeah, a light fraud. only some light fraud.
Not like the crazy stuff.
Did I tell you guys about the guy who admitted insurance fraud to me on the airplane?
Oh, did you have a recorder with you at the time?
I didn't.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Lucky I wasn't a fraud investigator,
Yep,
FBI guy.
Yeah, a
anyway.
policeman. Isn't it? Okay. So we move
Is that
on.
a Freudian slip on the airplane?
Thank you. That was really good. Okay, we move on to the circle of the gluttonous. Nope, we're not. Nope, not staying there. So the circle of gluttony. What is gluttony?
Gluttony is enjoying too many worldly comforts. Being enamored of food typically is the understanding. Having so much food you deny it to others.
Yeah. Inordinate desire, and it can be for all kinds of things. Food is the one we typically think of, but it can also be kind of any sensual experience, right? Food, drink. We'll have Dante's old drinking buddy shows up at this point.
When you don't give the controller to your kid brother.
Is this something you're holding on to?
I have a kid brother.
Oh, well.
I am the kid brother.
Exactly. Wonderful. You're repenting for your sins, right?
Gary.
What would you guess the punishment, or not the punishment, what is the cure for gluttony in purgatory?
In hell it was getting rained on.
That's a bummer.
It's probably, is it like eating Lenten fare? So you got to eat like leeks?
Oh, that would be even worse. No, it's fasting. It's straight up fasting. Each shade was dark and hollow in the eye, pale in the face, and worn away so thin the flesh assumed the contours of the bones. Though to be fair, they have no flesh. They are shades. Their eye holes were like rings without the gem. Those who read OMO, in the face of man, in theirs would easily have found the M. Their eyes are so sunken, you can see the contrast between the M shape in the middle, cheekbone to forehead to nose to forehead to cheekbone. This is a really good.
Oh, is that what it is? I thought it would be like OMO would be O eye socket, M would be nose,
and then O,
and then O would be eye socket.
But you would have easily found the M. The contrast is really significant between the two.
Dang.
So they are very starved. There is a stream of liquor. I don't think they say what kind it is, but it smells sweet. A fragrant liquor, whatever. And the aroma of an apple.
Oh, there's
Apple schnapps.
There's a booze river.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
Right next to them?
Yeah.
Are they not allowed to have it?
That's exactly right. They're not allowed to have it. So they have that in front of them. We'll eventually find out this apple tree is from the seed of the original tree, the knowledge of good and evil.
Okay.
So that is how it comes to be here. Dante sees his old drinking buddy. He's impressed that he's already come this far, already to the right. He's like, "How did you get here?"
Whoa! Seriously?
Yeah.
You made it? You made it this far?
I would have said prideful, but
yeah.
you know.
And when they have a part where Dante's like, "Don't bring up my past right now." Like, you know some stuff. Like, don't bring it up. So that happens.
Is it just the booze river, or is there food too that they can't
Apple.
have?
So there's the booze river and
there's an
tree
apple
with
tree
apples.
as well. Okay.
Apple and man,
Got it. What's that kind of booze that's made from apples and
cider?
No. Well, I mean, there's cider, but there's a hard liquor. I'm not thinking of it right now. Anyway,
I don't know.
This is important.
I'll look it up. You guys keep
That
trying.
sounds amazing.
Apple flavor. Nope.
I got it, Meg, but you can
Okay,
continue.
no, this is very important. Okay, so that's the circle of gluttony. Fasting is the obvious reply to that. There's this canto. That's Canto 23 is our introduction. Canto 24 is a tour of people who are in the circle of the gluttonous. They talk a lot about Italian politics. This was not interesting. So sorry, Dante.
Brandy.
Oh,
Brandy's made from fruit,
is it? Oh,
from grapes or from
was gonna
apples
say-
or from whatever.
I didn't know it could be made from apples too. That's interesting.
Common fruit spirit.
Okay, so I'm going to skip over the Italian political stuff, so apologies in advance. Canto 25 is started by Dante asking, I don't know if you all have this question too, he notices that, the shades don't have bodies, but they still appear hungry, right? They have no need for food,
what the
but
heck?
they are wasting away in the circle for the gluttonous. And this is Dr. Esselin. No one's favorite canto, this, not poetic enough. That's his summary of this canto, which he is 100% correct.
Oh, about because they're just talking about Italian politics?
No, Italian politics was the one
previous
before.
one.
Yes,
Oh.
that was Canto 24. Canto 25 is an answer to the question of why the spirits look like their bodies would look if they were hungry. And
It's just technical and lame.
yes, it's not really. Anyway, I mean, the answer is that the two match each other. When you are crying, that's your body that is crying tears, but your soul that is sad. There's not a disunity between the two. So yeah, right. So
Mind-blowing.
for your body to be hungry is also for your soul to hunger as well. Those two are tied together. So you're seeing those two in unity in the purgatory. He talks a lot about where souls come from, and apparently they used to think that babies came from the mixing of blood. So I don't know, things are weird. I don't know anything about that. So moving on to Canto 26, we get
Pretty close.
yeah, blood. I don't know. That's kind of weird. But so the circle of the lustful is our final circle for our time together, Canto 26 and 27. Graham, you have referenced this a few times before. I guess first. Oh, sorry. No, I messed up already. The daughters of
Daughters of the
Gluttony.
gluttonous.
unseemly joy, scurrility, uncleanness, loquaciousness, and dullness of mind as regards the understanding.
Oh my word, a 15-year-old boy.
Unseemly joy, scurrility. What is scurrilous? What is that? Give me a good definition.
I don't know.
I'm thinking scrofulous, which is different.
Scurrility is the quality of being scurrilous, which is not the most helpful definition. Is it? Hold on. This is probably fascinating listening.
I just keep thinking squirrely.
Coarse language.
Oh.
Using or given to coarse language.
It is a 15-year-old
vulgar and
boy.
evil. So those are your children of gluttony to be on the watch for. The answer to them is to
Fast.
Fast from those things, right? Deny yourself those things. We move into the circle of the lustful. What is lust?
It's the inordinate desire
For bodies.
for another person
Yeah.
sexually.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Wanton pleasure is a definition from Aquinas.
Does it have to be people, or is it? Is it a sexual desire? I guess anything else would be avarice or gluttony.
A lustful man is one who is debauched with pleasures. Now, venereal pleasures, sexual pleasures, above all debauch a man's mind. Therefore, lust is especially concerned with such like pleasures. It's not only, but primarily with body pleasures. So again, looking at these things that are like good, but just need to be refined. Material goods for avarice are good.
I've just always wondered where like inordinate drug use goes in
interesting.
in the like is the desire to be on LSD
Right.
a lust because it's an inexordinate bodily
I feel like
pleasure.
that would be gluttony, but I'm not sure because it's the desire for that experience. Because again, avarice will have to do with material goods. Gluttony is to do with food and drink, which are good things in and of themselves. And then lust is bodies, which are good things. The desire of a body is a good thing, but inordinate desire is wrong. So that is lust. So what did I just say? A lustful man is one who is debauched with pleasures. And primarily sexual pleasures. Venereal is a weird word. Anyway, sorry. That is primarily what it's related to. What is the punishment for those who are in the circle of the lustful?
To burn without being consumed.
Yeah.
You knew the answer for
I knew
that.
that
That's the
one.
one that
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
That's
anyway,
cheating.
you've
That
referenced a
one
few times.
because that's in Eliot's Wasteland.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So that is a part of it. I will say there's another part that surprised me. I'll just read, again, all I want to do is read Dante. From the middle, where the passage burned, came people facing opposite to these. So there are two lines of people. They're both looking at each other. I hung my gaze upon them looking on. And from each side, I saw the shades make haste to greet the others with a kiss, each one contented with the brief festivities.
Yeah. Whoa! Look, circle of the lustful. That's just.
But
like,
but
Love is good,
yeah,
but
not
don't
too
you
much.
go, but
Yeah.
no tongue.
yeah. Just don't greet each other with a kiss like too eagerly.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's
lips closed, no eye contact.
But there are commands. 1 Peter 5:14 is greet one another with a kiss of love.
No,
so like
I'm
that's
just saying.
somehow is accomplished here, right? They are.
Well, I guess they did leave a flowing river of booze around the other one.
in
So
the circle of gluttony. But that's again, I just find that interesting. It's both the their desires are burned away, right? That's they're passing through that fire. That love is, I think, burned away is the right term for it. There are like excesses of love that need to simply be spent.
find out.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But there is still a love that exists after that. They are still happy to see each other. They are still greeting. They are still capable of here kissing a European greeting, they're still capable of that without lust. And so that's part of the consequence, is to learn that through practice over time. Dante tries talking to them. The shades have no idea why he's there. He meets a predecessor of his.
They're like, why are you here?
Literally.
No girl likes you.
And as a mountain man stands overawed and stares in speechless wonder all about, when rough and rude he comes to the big town, so were the shades in their appearance now. So, he's insulting them. But yes, they have no idea why he's here. He's shouting to them, asking, what have you done to be burned? And they don't respond to him. They don't know what's going on. Dante meets a love poet. I don't know, Guinezelli. I don't know. He is like a predecessor of Dante's. Dante has his fanboy moment. So Statius was happy to see Virgil. Dante is happy to see Guinezelli. I don't know how to say that. Again, all I do is butcher the Italian language. Okay. This guy will say of his poetry that it's not that good and that it won't be remembered to time, and he is okay with that. He doesn't care anymore.
Okay. He's right. We don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Yes, exactly right. Sorry about that. Okay, so this will be our last canto together, and hopefully, I'm sorry I'm rushing. So this is canto 27, will be the last one that we wrap up with. So this is the top of the circle of the lustful. So through most of these, Dante has not had to do anything. He's like watched the other people as they have rocks on their back, but Dante didn't get a rock on his back. Dante didn't have his eyes sewn shut. He was like in the mist, but like he walked right through it. It wasn't really a big deal. In canto 27, he has to face this fire before he's able to approach the top of Purgatory, which we'll cover next time.
Buddy.
So this is his first time having to deal with one of the consequences. So he walks up to this wall of fire, and
if you are going to write a poem about yourself and you need to ascribe some kind of sin that you've done, you may want to like pick the sexy one. Be like, I loved too much. Yeah, exactly. I loved the ladies and they loved me.
Sounds poetical.
Yeah, honestly though. So they walk up to this wall of fire, and Statius and Virgil are not concerned. They wrote like noble epic poetry. There's no they don't have like love poetry in their background. So they're not worried to walk through the fire because they won't have much that needs to be burned away.
Statius is walking around, is coming with him?
Yes, he's walked the entire way with him.
He's with Virgil as his buddy.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he's kind of the VIP card or whatever.
Can I come on?
But they come to this wall of fire, and Dante is terrified to walk through it.
Well, duh.
Yes. And so Virgil tries to coax him to walk through this wall of fire. My son, there may indeed be torment here, but death can never be. Just remember, when we rode on Gurion's back in the Inferno, I led you safely down. What will I do now that we're nearer God? Stand in this fire's belly 1,000 years. You must believe it for a certainty. You wouldn't be balder by a single hair. So he gives, look, the reality of purgatory is you cannot die here. There can be pain, but there's no death here. Is this a convincing argument?
I think so.
Pain still sucks.
Yes.
Get in here. It hurts, but you'll be fine.
This is funny. Dante is not moved by this argument. Virgil gives the rational argument. Dante, the nature of purgatory is that you cannot die. The fact is you can walk through this fire and be fine. And it's not enough for Dante. He still stands there terrified. Yet I stood firm against my conscience. Again, his conscience tells him, believe what you're hearing. So when Virgil, saw me stiffened and immovable, he said, a little troubled that he had to move to this, son, look now, what's keeping you from Beatrice is this wall. And then that immediately was what prompts Dante to actually go through the fire. It's not the facts.
Rational argument.
It's not the rational argument. It's not just the facts of the situation. It's his love for Beatrice that is enough to pull him through that wall of fire to face the I would say danger, but to face the pain really is what he's on the hook for. He walks through it. It hurts a lot, but he makes it. And he hears a singing voice.
So the shades are not currently in the fire. They're
Virgil and Statius follow with him.
No. I mean like the shades that are smooching.
Yes, but it's like a narrow path. There's like fire on one side and like falling off the mountain on the other. So they're forced to walk through fire up to this final wall of fire. There's lots of burning going on in this circle of the lustful.
But like the lust, are they burning as part of their punishment?
Yes.
Okay.
While they're in the circle, and then that final level is like a wall that they have to cross.
And they have to listen to like good love stories, right?
Yes, they reference those elsewhere.
Yeah.
Many apologies. So they cross through that. Dante, of course, will take a nap at this point. He has a vision of Leah. Leah from the story of Rachel and Leah.
Huh.
Yeah. Why do you have a huh there?
Well, she's the one that was loved, or the
No.
one that wasn't loved?
The one that wasn't loved.
Yeah.
Which
Why
makes
is
this a
it being-
surprising image.
Why is having a vision of the one who wasn't loved?
So,
It's weird.
and even so, Leah's supposed to. She has
Had to work 7 years, and then you got her, and he was.
but he wasn't happy about it.
He wasn't happy
That's
about it.
Jacob. Jacob loved Rachel, but Laban tricks Jacob into working to marry Leah, not Rachel. Well, eventually both, but first Leah.
Is it because she loved chastely and virtuously, right? She loved without any sort of lust in the mix.
The image. So you might also another thing to remember is she's like not the pretty one. Rachel's the pretty one, but in this it's described. Let anyone, this is Leah speaking, let anyone who may demand my name know I am Leah, and I go to make myself a garland by my lovely hands. Here I adorn myself for the delight I will enjoy when looking in my glass, like a mirror. My sister Rachel never leaves that sight, but gazes in her glass that whole day through. She goes on from there. I'll read from the
I love you,
Leah. So part of it is that being in purgatory, Leah has been purged of her problems on earth. I guess I'll read this. Again, this is a note from Dr. Esselin. Medieval exegetes saw in Rachel and Leah an allegory of the contemplative and active life, inferring from the weakness of Leah's eyes a keenness of vision in Rachel, and inferring from Leah's relative fecundity, she has lots of babies, a propensity for the practical virtues. After the purging of sin, then, Dante has a vision of the return of virtue, and that takes the form of a beautiful lady culled flowers from a meadow. The dream is prophetic, for we'll meet a holy lady in a second. But even Leah now is lovable and loved in a way that she couldn't be on earth. She's been purged of whatever was insufficient, not enough in her on earth. She now no longer has that. She now is beautiful. She now is...
Psyche.
Yes, right. So we then get to the very end. So Dante has crossed through all of the circles of purgatory. You may remember at the beginning that he had 7 marks put upon his head to represent the 7 sins that he would purge. He has the final one removed from him.
Oh, Steam achievement.
He gets the Steam achievement. You've completed purgatory. And Virgil, so they're about to walk, and Virgil, stops him before they take the steps up to the earthly paradise, which is the next circle. And I'll just read this we're at an hour right now, so this is probably the right place to wrap it up. The temporal and eternal fires, my son, you have now seen, and you have reached a part where I discern no further on my own. I've led you here by strength of mind and art. Take your own pleasure for your leader now. You've left the steep and narrow ways behind. Behold the sun that gleams upon your brow. Behold the grass, the flowers, and the young trees which this land of its own brings forth to grow. While we await the glad and lovely eyes whose weeping made me come to you, Beatrice, you may sit here or walk among them as you please. No longer wait for what I do or say. Your judgment now is free and whole and true. To fail to follow its will would be to stray. Lord of yourself I crown and mitre you. So, having purged himself of these sins, Dante is now ready to make his own decisions.
He doesn't need Virgil anymore.
Correct. And even to say...
Oh, Dad.
Yeah, right.
So no more sin makes a perfect intellect?
Yes. I wish we had more time for it. I see this as the response to the existentialist claims. There is a freedom at the end of what Dante is describing here, but it's having that freedom from sin makes one perfected in thinking, feeling, all of those things.
Interesting.
He's been restored to image of God such that he can trust himself in a way that he wasn't able to 7 levels of purgatory ago.
Interesting.
So that's Virgil's final charge to him. And he is crowned and mitred. So he is both king and bishop now, right? He is both in control and capable of fulfilling those commands.
Yeah.
So that's where we leave things off. We will move into Canto 28, and we have, 5 more, 28 through 33. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Good
a couple
stuff.
more left. So yeah, there you go.
Cool. Those are cool.
Yeah. Sorry for rushing at the end, but just trying to
no worries.
get all that in.
This has been Classical Stuff. You can hit our website at classicalstuff.net. You can email us, theguys@classicalstuff.net. You can check us out on Twits at CLSSCAL Stuff. And we do have a Patreon if you are interested in supporting the podcast. If you're not, then we're still going to do this for free. But if you do pay us, we have extra goodies at the website. At the $5 level, we got some extra talks and things you can connect it with. And then if we ever have ads, you will still get all the episodes ad-free.
You get some years off Purgatory too, right?
A couple years off Purgatory,
we'll pray
sure.
for your soul. Yeah,
and then
exactly.
at the $10 level, you hear a good chunk of our in-between episode banter. That's some of my favorite stuff. And especially if you're interested in finance, we talk a lot about finance. And then
I'm so sorry, listeners.
there's also AMA stuff there. And at $20, you can help to dictate the direction of the podcast. So there you go. If you want to help us out, you can. And I think that does it for the episode.
I think so.
You guys happy?
Yes.
Yep. I'm happy. All right. Thanks. This has been Classical Stuff, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.